How often do restaurants change the frequency of their tip structure? How often are they reviewing it? How often are they adjusting it? The vast majority of restaurant operators, only when they are legally required or during major staffing changes. If they had a massive turnover event, if they're hiring a new location and they're looking at it, those kinds of instances are when the vast majority of restaurants review their tip structure. A little over a quarter are reviewing it annually, every single year. They're jumping in and saying, hey, does this still work? Are we experiencing turnover with hostesses? Should we adjust tip pool percentages to allow for something on that? Should we increase back to the back of house? What are we looking at here? And then about 20%, 1 in every 5 of you, are looking at it every quarter or every season. That's outstanding to be looking at it that often. At minimum, we would recommend annually, of course, because the industry is changing faster than ever. When we're looking at this, primary motivation for updating tip structures, overwhelmingly more than 3/4 of the time, to improve fairness or morale, which is outstanding. That is something that we always want to see. It is a lever and a tool that I think is so often forgotten. What we want to make sure that we're always paying attention to is tips are an area to get the efforts and rewards from employees that you're looking for. So if you're having trouble with turnover in specific areas, if you're adding tasks to individual jobs that they must perform, anytime like this, it's a good idea to say, hey, money's a good motivator. If we switched this up, if we adjusted this tip pool, if we ended up cutting a role this year and we no longer use that in our restaurant, someone has to fill that, right? Still must be done. Maybe it's existing staff, but how are we manipulating that tip methodology and philosophy to make sure that we're compensating the individuals who have the highest performance in our restaurant, the largest predictor of the outcomes of our restaurant? Next up was staying compliant with wage laws. No surprise, if wage laws are adjusted, you should look at your tip policies. If your state changes things, you must make sure you're staying on top of it. And then lastly is addressing back of house and front of house inequities. Of course, this was now tip eligible for back of house. The big things to note, of course, are always if you're in a tip credit state and you take advantage of that tip credit, you cannot share to the back of house. But making sure and looking and recognizing, in my opinion, a long overdue theory that the back of house is critical to the restaurant success, right? If food comes out cold, incorrect, if it does not look appealing, all of those impact tips, and so it's well worth it to explore sharing some with your back of house. A couple other items are worth noticing from this. The impact of tip structure adjustments on morale and retention data. So this is, again, from our poll of our internal customers. I believe we sent it's anonymized data for about 5,000 restaurants that we sent out to. Over 67% agree that there is a positive impact of tip structure adjustments on morale and retention. The data shows this, that we've had restaurants increase by up to 33% retention. They're staying longer. Employee tenure is growing, which is excellent. Turnover costs a ton of money for restaurants, as we all know. But even beyond that, it's 67% had positive. You can take that up to 95% that it was neutral or positive. Adjusting tip structures feels scary. If you're approaching it with open communication, if you're doing it for the right reasons and you're being transparent about that, 95% of the time your employee will have a positive or neutral view on it, and that employee tenure and turnover drops. So we're looking forward to those items. Make sure you're having open communication and you're reviewing this.